I call this meeting of the Northeast Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. The time is 5:30 p.m. This board will now adjourn into executive session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act. Texas Government Code, Section 551.071, private consultation with the board's attorney. 551.072, discussing purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. 551.074, to discuss personnel or to hear complaints against personnel. 551.076, discussion regarding security devices or security audits. And the time is 5:31. Thank you all for your patience. This board will now convene an open session, and the time is 6:47 p.m. On behalf of the trustees, I would like to welcome you to this evening's meeting of the Northeast Independent School District Board of Trustees. It is the mission of Northeast to challenge and encourage each student and to achieve and demonstrate academic excellence, technical skills, and responsible citizenship. To accomplish this, NEISD utilizes the Balanced District Scorecard to help guide our decision-making process, which fosters balance between our students, our staff, our stakeholders, and responsible stewardship. We appreciate your attendance and expect that everyone will conduct themselves in a respectful and professional manner. As always, we welcome your comments during the Matters from the Floor section of the agenda. If you signed up to address a specific agenda item, you'll be called at that time. Finally, we want to thank you for choosing NEISD and for helping maintain its excellence as a destination school district. Item 5, Invocation and Pledge of Allegiance, Ed White Middle School, Mr. Fernando Ruiz.
Good evening, President Breyer, members of the board, Mr. Jarrett, and members of the executive staff. My name is Fernando Ruiz, and I am honored to serve as the proud principal of Ed White Middle School. This evening, we're especially proud to highlight two exceptional students who exemplify excellence, leadership, and eagle pride found across our campus. They are joining us tonight to present the invocation and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Manaya Woods is an 8th grade student in our Ed White program of study and will be delivering the invocation on this evening. Manaya is a well-rounded student leader and dedicated student athlete who proudly represents Ed White in volleyball, basketball, and track. Her commitment, character, and positive presence make her a wonderful ambassador for our school. She is joined this evening by her dad, Leo Zachary. Her mom couldn't be here because she is working tonight. And their support has played an important role in her success. Could you stand, please, Manaya? Joining her is Master Kevin Ryan, also an 8th grade student enrolled in our Design and Technology Academy program of study. Kevin will be leading us in the pledges this evening. He is a driven and engaged student who has made his mark at Ed White through his involvement in football and basketball, as well as his participation in outside basketball, robotics, and chess club. Kevin's curiosity, leadership, and determination truly reflect the spirit of an Ed White Eagle. He is joined tonight by his mother, Erica Evans, who has been instrumental in supporting his growth and achievements. Could you stand, please? Manaya and Kevin, can you join me at the podium, please?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys are enjoying your night. I know that every decision in this room is very important. The decisions affect our schools, our amazing teachers, and our daily learning experience. Tonight, when you ladies and gentlemen make these decisions, I hope that you keep every student at the center of the conversation. We all are different, with different strengths, different abilities, but we all have one thing in common. We all want to be supported, we all want to have confidence, and we all want to succeed. So I want to thank everybody in this room for supporting my positive learning experience. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Mr. Ruiz. We appreciate your attendance here. And Manaya and Kevin, if y'all want to come forward for a picture with Mr. Jarrett and Miss Tracy Shelton.
I'll take one. I just want to take one.
Thank you to Ed White Middle School. Manaya, Kevin, thank you again so much for being here. We appreciate y'all's attendance. You do not have to stay if you don't want to. You're welcome to go and do all the other things that you're doing. So, but thank y'all. Oh, get there. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. Item 6, recognitions. A, President's comments and acknowledgement of special calendar events. I know we mentioned it at the last meeting. It's been a few weeks, but last week was Counselor Appreciation Week, and so we just wanted to remind everybody that that was last week. So if you got a chance to thank your counselors, that was well earned by that group of individuals. So February 15th is School Resource Officer Appreciation Day. So thank you to our school resource officers for everything they do at each one of our schools. And March 6th, right as we're butting up against spring break, we have Maintenance Worker Appreciation Day. So take it easy on them. Don't put in all your requests all on that day if you can. So, all right, item 7 is matters from the floor. Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you. The trustees welcome comments from members of the public during this time of the meeting. Generally, board members do not respond to public comments during the meeting, although members may request further information or further agenda item on a matter raised during public comment. As explained fully in the board's written procedures for this time, the matters from the floor portion is a limited public forum. Accordingly, speakers may present on a topic related to district business for up to 3 minutes, but are not permitted to 1, make personal complaints about an individual staff or board member that should be raised during the district's grievance using the district's grievance policies. 2, a personnel action. 3, a student disciplinary matter. 4, a complaint about a particular student. 5, or pending litigation. Any person who persists in speaking on these topics after being directed not to do so will lose the remainder of their time to speak and may lose their privilege of addressing the board at future meetings. If you signed up to speak on a specific agenda item, you will be called up when the board reaches that item. Please remember that this is a business meeting of the board. Any person or group engaging in outbursts of any kind causing a disruption to the meeting will be warned, and if they persist, will be removed from the meeting. This is to ensure that all speakers have an opportunity to make comments without interruption and that the board members are able to pay full attention to speakers without any distractions. We also welcome written comments at any time, either through email at board@neisd.net or by mail, care of the Superintendent's Office at 8961 Tesoro Drive, 6th floor, San Antonio, Texas, 78217. Number 1.
Good evening, board members, superintendent. My name is Beth Dill. I am an art teacher at Harris Middle School, and I am here to address recent discoveries from the news. This past week, We've learned from news reports that NEISD has been notified of a possible TEA takeover. The stated reason was a failure to comply with a state law banning cell phone use from bell to bell. On the first point, as a teacher, I must state that the current cell phone policy is not strict enough. This is a shared concern among my colleagues. The reality in our classroom is that phones are being used during instruction, on restroom breaks, and throughout the day. While enforcement falls to us, the policy itself, by allowing phones to be in hand for any part of the day, creates the constant conflict we as teachers have to manage. It actively hinders teaching and learning. The science is clear on the adverse effects of cell phones, especially for children. The TEA requirement is, in fact, a sound one. Which leads to my second and more appalling point. It is incomprehensible to me that this board would risk forfeiting our community's fundamental right to a publicly elected board. Allowing a TEA takeover strips us of our voice. It removes our ability to make local and community-informed decisions for our students. Therefore, I do not stand here to criticize the state's cell phone rule. I stand here to implore you. Comply with it unequivocally. Take every measure necessary to follow the law, and in doing so, protect this board's existence and the democratic rights of every parent, teacher, and student in NEISD. Do not let our community lose its voice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 2.
Good evening. I have to kind of get rid of the nervousness by, hello. But my name, let me get going. So good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Sharonda Smith. I'm here wearing several hats shaped by NEISD. I'm a former NEISD student from El Dorado Elementary. I went to Wood Middle School and I graduated from Madison High School in 2004. It doesn't feel that long ago. But with that going on from there, I'm also a former teacher from MacArthur High School. I'm a parent to 2 NEISD students, and I'm now a school counselor intern at MacArthur High School. I'm here tonight because I care deeply about public education and about this district. As an educator, I've seen how declining enrollment affects schools, campus closures, overcrowded classrooms, and staff reductions. When enrollment declines, funding declines, and schools lose positions that help them function effectively. That loss is felt by the students, teachers, and families. As a parent, I'm watching the growing interest of personalized education, including micro schools. Families are looking for smaller environments, stronger relationships, and instruction that adapts to the learner, not the other way around. But as an educator, I also have concerns. Many families leave public education out of frustration and turn to homeschooling or microschooling, hoping for something better, only to discover the landscape that can feel like the Wild West. Issues of accreditation, accountability, qualified educators, and credit recovery often aren't clear until it's too late. Parents are doing the best they can with the information they have. This is where the districts like NEISD have an opportunity and a responsibility. Public school districts can bring order, quality, and accountability to this space by vetting educators, ensuring accreditation and credit integrity, sharing resources that improve the public investment, and offering families trusted options within the public system. Research consistently shows why families leave and why they choose microschools: personalization, relational learning, and being truly known in smaller settings, things that are difficult to replicate at scale even when educators are doing everything right. Other districts across the country, smaller here and there, are already exploring public-private partnerships, innovation of campuses, and district-authorized microschool models. I would love for NEISD to be part of those conversations if it isn't already. In this way, if this work is underway, that's wonderful. But as a parent and an educator, I'm largely unaware of what those plans may be. Families are making decisions now, especially as the new ESA pathways open. When intentions are communicated, parents assume there's no option is coming. NEISD already offers incredible programs. Our early college at MacArthur, the cybersecurity pathways, the CTE programs, all of them are beautiful programs, and I believe in them. And I hope that they can continue, and we have the funding to continue them at their at level and even going to scale.
That's
However,
time.
I understand. Thank you.
Sorry.
No
Thank
problem.
you so much.
Number 3.
Thank you. President Byer, members of the board, Dr. Jarrett. I'm Tom Cummins representing Northeast AFT. There are four topics that we would like to comment on. First, we urge passage of the resolution on wage payments during school closures, which is on the consent agenda. We appreciate your concern for NEISD employees. Second, we urge the board to pass on implementing a policy not implementing a policy under SB 11, which is also under on tonight's agenda. We have concerns that students could be pressured to participate, which could lead to being bullied or ostracized. Furthermore, schools must be welcoming to all children and not a source of division among students. Third, many of our members have concerns regarding the current student cell phone use policy, as well as its leading to an ongoing dispute with TEA. We believe that it is possible to find alternatives which would meet the needs of both sides, and we urge you to seek those alternatives. Employee organizations must be involved in finding possible effective solutions, and they are the best source for pointing out policy shortcomings. Finally, it's important that the district develop clear guidance for campuses regarding student walkouts, particularly in light of recent comments from the Texas Education Agency. Again, employee organizations should be involved in those discussions, and we should have the opportunity to review any policies or guidelines prior to finalization. Obviously, educators must remain neutral on any political issues, including walkouts, but the safety of the students must be at the forefront. Then, too, what is the role of teachers and the support personnel? Their safety is important as well, and certain policies could put them in danger. Teachers have told us that there are too many unanswered questions, and they are very concerned with the guidelines issued. We are requesting to be a part of the discussion and the solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 8, matters from executive session. A, personnel including but not limited to administrative appointments pursuant to Government Code Section 551.074. 1, possible action regarding routine personnel but not including but not limited to administrative appointments, no action. Item 2, possible action regarding proposed recommendation for termination of Chapter 21 term contract employee. Do I have a motion to approve as discussed?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Villarreal. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Landry. As a reminder, we're going to go through the old roll call vote. So I'm going to start. Mrs. Thompson?
Aye.
Ms. Chidgey?
Aye.
Mr. Byer? Aye. Ms. Villarreal?
Aye.
Ms. Cox?
Aye.
Mrs. Landry?
Aye.
Mrs. Shelton?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes 7-0. Item 9, presentations. A, intruder detection audit. Mr. Jarrett.
Thank you, Mr. Byer, members of the board, executive staff, and guests. We had 6 audits since the last board meeting. Of those 6 audits, we had 1 finding. That 1 finding was essentially discovered that a door was not completely shut where they heard the click. That is being addressed right now because it had to pull a little harder, but we need to make sure that when we walk outdoors that we're actually listening and making sure the door clicks before we move forward. So 1 finding, 6 audits since the last board meeting.
Thank you very much. Item 10, Superintendent Comments. Do we have some this month? Mr. Jarrett?
I have some of those. Let me pull those up. So pretty excited. We've had quite a few things going on in our district. Students from MacArthur High School recently volunteered their time to help with a food distribution event at Mac, helping sort and pack cars with food from the San Antonio Food Bank. So that was a positive event for our students. That event also continued into our other school, Churchill. JROTC cadets also worked with the San Antonio Food Bank, and they sorted enough food to provide more than 41,000 meals to families in our area. Another positive thing I would like to share is 6 of our high schools were named to the College Board AP Honor Roll list. Those are Churchill, ISA, Johnson, Legacy of Educational Excellence, Reagan, and Roosevelt High School. All made the list this year. We only had 3 campuses earn that spot on honor roll last year. This recognition is based on the criteria that reflects the commitment to increase a college-going culture, also earning college credits and maximizing college readiness. I would also like to congratulate Brandon Moore from Madison High School. He was a gold prize winner for this year's Hilltop Securities annual Hilltop Hunt, earning the district $10,000. He was one of 8 winners statewide out of 22,000 entries. I would also like to congratulate in order for Amy Calvey from Harris Middle School. She is our Trinity Prize Teacher of the Year. She will represent our district in a citywide Trinity Prize of Excellence teaching ceremony. Fun fact, she is also a product of NEISD from MacArthur High School. I think also we have NEISD educators have achieved a prestigious National Board Certified Teacher title recently, following 2 years of rigorous coursework. So we have 6 people who are being honored in that capacity, and that is by less than 1% of the teachers actually have this certification, and we have 6 of them with us. There's really a lot of great things going on in our district, and one of the things that I would like to showcase is us to actually see some of these things in action. I can read off a piece of paper or explain it to you, but I think it's really important that you actually see it, because we had an opportunity to see at Regency Place Elementary. They have an academic parent-teacher team. Our teachers guide parents through important topics and work with them to give confidence to support their children's learning at home. It really has created a strong relationship and partnership between the teachers and families. So take a look at this NEISD Way moment.
I'm going to teach you how to use it, and we should be okay.
Here at Regency Place, we really believe in academic parent-teacher teams.
We're going to teach them how to do time.
Basically, it's another platform that we're using for parent-teacher conferences. It is where all of the families in one classroom come in together to conference with the teacher.
Entonces, a veces los niños toman mucho tiempo.
I like the group setting with the rest of the parents, speaking with the teacher, her sharing with us how the kids have grown, showing us their MAP scores.
It really teaches the parents the importance of MAP testing and what it all means and how we align our instruction with what the data reflects. So it's really about teaching the parents what we do and why we're doing it.
It's nice because you're among parents and you share in the struggles that you're having. You don't feel alone.
It's parents only in the classroom. We are taking the kids and we're providing activities for them. So this whole platform for parent-teacher conferencing, it takes a village because we have teachers that stay to help with the child care, and then we have teachers that stay to actually host the sessions. We have people at the door. So when teachers are not hosting their own APTT session, they're helping in some other way.
This is her second year of doing dual language.
It's a way that creates more of a community setting, and it's a way that really builds that family and that partnership. It really emphasizes the team.
I feel like we're all in sync. Teacher, parent, and child can be on the same page with everything.
We believe in the framework and we've seen the results. It's been 4 years and it's growing and getting better every year.
That is all my comments, and I want to thank Regency for allowing us to come out and see their showcase of parents and teachers working together for the good of our students. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Jarrett. I think that's great, and I like to see if that's going to be a monthly thing, then that'll be fantastic to kind of see what's happening in our district. Item 11, board business. A, discussion and possible action on Senate Bill 11. This item, as I'm sure you all know, relates to the passage of Senate Bill 11 that gives districts the option to adopt a policy allowing students and employees the opportunity to engage in prayer and or readings from religious texts. Tonight, we're being asked to discuss and possibly take action as to whether we want to adopt a resolution to create this policy within the district. From the passage of the law, we have 6 months to take action on this, and so 6 months will be March 1st. So this was an opportunity to have this on the agenda before the deadline. Just to be clear, we're not actually writing the policy tonight. We're just adopting the resolution that then the policy will have to be crafted to adhere with the state law and all the components, moving pieces that go along with that. So that will come at a later date if this were to go forward. Everybody's been given a copy of Senate Bill 11. I believe we've received some emails just kind of clarifying what happened through the legislative process and where we are today. So as I was saying, tonight is to determine whether this board is interested in moving forward with adopting such policy. So I will say I do know that we do currently have a policy, FNA legal and FNA local, that allow for the, I guess, religious expression at this point in our schools. So if anybody was able to find those, they kind of speak to that part of a student's day and a staff member's day that allow that expression to occur within our current framework. So with that, Mr. Lopez is here to answer any questions on the legal side of things, operationally and implementation-wise. Not to put Mr. Jarrett on the spot, but I imagine he has some answers to questions we might have on how this looks. So with that, I will open it up for questions and or discussion, if anybody has any. Ms. Landry.
So I was under the impression that the law required us to create a policy by March 1st. Is that not correct?
No, the bill requires that you all take action on whether you're going, by record vote, on whether you're going to adopt the resolution to adopt a policy. And so the policy would be crafted if and when the board adopts the resolution first, and then that would lead to the creation of a policy, because the policy would have to meet all of the legal parameters that are set forth in Senate Bill 11.
Okay. Is this the first time we've ever done it like this? In the past, we've always had a policy presented with some recommendations. I looked and I tried to find a policy from other districts, and I couldn't find any. And I did a search, and apparently no other school districts in Texas have voted yet to adopt a policy. And so I couldn't find any reference. So I'm a little confused as to what we're voting for if we don't know what a policy would look like outside of what the bill says, which is kind of...
Right. And the bill is just worded in such a way that you're voting on whether or not to adopt the resolution, which allows you to move the process forward to create the policy. I know the bill is sort of worded strangely that way, but that's how it's done. And the policy, if you do pass the resolution, the policy would need to incorporate all of the parameters that are set forth in the bill that kind of explain how it would all work to incorporate the period of prayer. And then there would be obviously some things that the administration would need to kind of do to ensure that it would be implemented at all the campuses. But the law, the bill itself really lays out kind of what your policy has to do and say. So, I mean, in that regard, there's not as much discretion, I think, for what your policy would look like. There may be some things implementation-wise, but the bill pretty much lays out what the policy is supposed to look like.
And so one more question. If we were to vote against the we're not adopting a policy, so against the resolution to move forward with adopting a policy, would that then prevent teachers and students from participating in prayer at school?
No. So school prayers, I mean, parents, students have that right already. They can pray during moments of silence. There's already a statute on the books. It's 25.901 of the Education Code that allows students to pray at any point during the school day as long as it's not disruptive to what they have to do in school. But they can pray at any time that they want to. Employees also, especially with the Supreme Court decision that was handed down a couple of years ago, it made it clear that as long as employees have their own downtime, they're free to also engage in prayer if they so choose. So in that sense, it doesn't mean that kids can't pray. Kids can already pray. Employees can pray on their own time. That is permitted. That is something that they're able to do as long as it doesn't otherwise disrupt what they're supposed to be doing during the school day.
So it's on their own time and can be viewed as a disruption?
Well, I mean, the disruption would be, for example, instead of taking the math test that I'm supposed to take, I'm going to take that time to pray, right? That they still have to do the math test, if that makes sense. But other than that, a student can pray anytime they want to during the school day.
And an employee as well. So the employee would be a disruption if they don't do it on their own time.
Right. So if an employee,
school.
right? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But yeah, if an employee says, okay, well, I'm not going to teach math today, I'm going to engage in prayer, then that would be disruptive because they're not doing the task that you've hired them to do. But for example, during their planning time, during their duty-free lunch, during any time where they don't have a structured work task that they are doing or required to do, they're free to pray.
And so if they were to pray out loud, for example, and it was during their duty-free time, then that would not be considered disruptive?
I mean, no, it wouldn't be considered disruptive. I mean, I guess it's one of those things where they can't necessarily do it in such a way that it might lead to conflict, for example, that you're stirring conflict. I don't know whether that would happen, but it's possible. But outside of that, no, a person can sit down, by way of example, they could sit down in the teacher's lounge and they can pray before they eat their meal. I mean, that's not, the law, Northeast, whether it's Northeast or otherwise, the law is not hostile to religion in schools. It's not. I mean, kids have the right to pray. Employees have the right to pray. They can engage in religious expression. It just, obviously, they have to do it within the context of getting what they're supposed to get done, but the law is not hostile in any way toward religious expression in school.
And so what would this policy achieve outside of our current?
So what this bill has done is create the opportunity for a school board to decide that they're going to implement a policy that dedicates an actual period of time during the school day for the purpose of allowing students to gather together during the school day to pray, or employees to also gather together to pray, or to engage in the reading of the Bible or other religious texts. That's what it does. So what the law says, if you read the bill, it points out that that wouldn't count towards your instructional time, so it wouldn't count towards your 75,600 minutes. But the issue is whether you're going to have an actual dedicated period of time during the school day for that activity, for praying.
And if I read this correctly, an actual period of time designated would require parents to opt into, versus if I'm a teacher and I'm just praying out loud, regardless of the audience, the parent, in this case, the parents would have to opt in and sign a waiver to participate.
Yes, so the way the law is written, if there is a period of dedicated prayer or reading of religious texts during the school day, then parents would need to submit written consent on behalf of their children to participate, and employees who also wish to participate have to submit their own written consent as well. And there are specific requirements, as you see in the bill, for what that written consent has to say. And it also has to, among other things, incorporate a waiver that that person who chooses to participate is basically waiving their right to assert some sort of constitutional claim over the period of prayer. But all of those parameters, it has to be with written consent. And then as you go further into the bill, it talks about if there is going to be a period of prayer that is dedicated to during the school day, that only those kids and only those employees who have submitted written consent would be allowed to gather in whatever space in the school will be dedicated for that purpose. And whatever religious expression is going on, whether it's the prayer or the reading of the religious texts, that has to be done in an area that's out of earshot, so to speak, of anyone who has not, whose parents have not provided consent, or other employees who have not consented to that.
And so with the way our current policy allows for freedom of religion and freedom of speech, the individual partaking in that freedom is not currently restricted to having certain individuals within earshot, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, that's not
They could
right.
have.
That's right.
They could just speak a prayer as they're walking down the hallway.
They can absolutely do that. A student could do that now, and as long as it's not otherwise causing a disruption. And what we mean by that is a violation of school rule or anything
Right.
like that, which it wouldn't be. Then yeah, nothing wrong with that. I mean, students are allowed to talk in the hallway between classes, right? So they can absolutely engage in prayer if they so desire.
And same for teachers between
Yes.
sessions
Mhm.
or classes.
Right.
Okay. And in implementing something like this, what would that administratively look like?
Administratively, it would really have to have a designated time because it cannot be during instructional time. And so we would have to look at the day of the schedule, making sure all students are present, because if you do it at a certain time, then a student can say, well, I don't have access to it. So we would have to look at that piece. The biggest challenge will be receiving, tracking, and monitoring all of the permission slips to make sure that any student that selects to go into that space where it's been designated, that they actually have a permission slip, which will then require an adult to be present during that particular place.
So in keeping with our current, if we decide to not vote for a policy, in keeping with our current policies, are we risking any liability with this law indicating that consent is required if we pass the policy, but if we don't have consent, so are we opening ourselves up for any kind of liability?
Well, I mean, it all depends on whether or not there is some sort of constitutional violation that would take place. So, for example, if the school was actively engaging in the promotion of one particular religious viewpoint over another, like forcing kids to listen to it or doing that sort of thing, that can cause a potential issue, because then you could violate either the Establishment Clause or the Free Exercise Clause. But I mean, outside of that, again, if a student just decides that they wish to pray to themselves in the hallway, passing periods, at lunch, they absolutely can do that. And that's not, whether or not someone else hears it, that's not an issue. I mean, so long as it doesn't lead to other disruptions like people yelling at each other or something like that, some sort of reaction along those lines. But at that point, you're addressing not the content of the speech, you're addressing the behavior. Like, you know, kids shouldn't be yelling at each other in lunchroom or in the hallways or getting into fights or things of that nature. So that's what we really talk about when we talk about disruptions.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Cox?
So just so I'm clear, so we already have volunteer prayer in school. But it would then fall, if we voted for a resolution, which would then lead to a policy, it would fall to the school to track students, and then you have to find a space. And so how do you find the way to make up the instructional time, I guess? Is this 5-minute prayer between passing periods, or a student gets an excuse to be late at the beginning of the school. I just don't know how that looks in like a real-time situation.
That becomes more of an implementation issue, and so that's where the administration would have to look into all of that. As far as finding spaces on campuses to dedicate for this purpose, as far as how long you wanted to allow, that's really within your discretion, and really comes down to, at least the way I view it, is an administrative implementation issue. Because you're right, you can't dedicate so much time to it that it inhibits you from your 75,600 minutes, because this, whatever time you dedicate to this, would not count towards those instructional minutes that are required by the state. But outside of that, in terms of figuring out how this all would operate in terms of the period of time and the places on campus, that's really going to be an administrative issue. And a lot of that would depend on how many people were going to submit their consents, right? You might get some campuses where you get a lot, you get some campuses where you might not get many. It all would depend.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go there. What does this, when you say all religions, all right, there's certain religions that I don't think, for example, Satanism. Could this possibly open the door where we would have to have Satanism on our campuses?
I mean, as long as it's a legitimate religious viewpoint, that's possible. I don't know if you get a whole lot of Satanists that are going to want to participate in that, but theoretically, that is a possibility, yes, if somebody does happen to follow that particular line. Now, no one can come in and engage in any kind of speech that would be advocating any kind of illegal conduct or advocating for there to be violent behavior, anything of that nature. That could not happen regardless of the religious viewpoint or any other viewpoint being expressed. But, yeah, I mean, the issue that could happen, and again, this is obviously within the board's discretion, but the issue that could happen is you could have multiple denominations that want a period of time to engage in their religious expression. And some may not be comfortable engaging in that religious expression, whether it's prayer, reading of texts, together. So that's another potential implementation issue for schools. So if you get folks that say want to read the Torah as opposed to the Bible, the law permits that because it says the Bible and or other religious texts. So if you think of any religious text that you can imagine, that would fall under the definition in the bill, right? That's a religious text.
So just so I'm clear, and our community is clear, we already have something in place where children are allowed to pray in school. So really, there's nothing that this bill is forcing us to do. The kids have this right at this time. Our teachers have this right, but we're not allowing it to become where we could potentially have a cult situation developing on our campuses. I just, in this day and time, that's a worrisome, thought.
Right. And all this is doing is, if what they're asking you to consider, what the bill is asking you to consider, whether you want to dedicate a specific period of time during your school day to accomplish this. That's it. As far as the rights of kids, like I said, to engage in prayer, employees to engage in prayer, I mean, they're able to do that, again, so long as they're still otherwise accomplishing what is expected during the school day. So instruction, supervision, all of those things, they're free to engage in those activities if they so choose. So, I mean, this, that's why I was making the point that I think a lot of folks sometimes think that there's a lot of hostility towards religion in schools, but that's just not the case. I mean, students are free to engage in that and can whenever they choose to do so, again, so long as they're otherwise doing what they're supposed to be doing in school.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Landry, or did Ms. Shelton, did you have your light on? I can't see. Okay, Mrs. Landry?
I just have one more clarification. For the reading of religious text, and I just want to make sure that we dot that I really carefully, for a teacher who uses their in-between class time or whatever, conference time or whatever, to read a religious text out loud, without a policy. No consent is required, and the audience doesn't matter. With the policy, we would have restrictions on those activities, and consent is required.
Consent would be required to engage in those activities in any way. Now, the only thing about a teacher doing that is if they're in class, right? If they're supposed to be teaching math, teaching algebra, then they need to focus on that as opposed to engaging in the reading of religious texts. But when it's their sort of downtime, if they're in the teacher's lounge and they want to sit there and read, the Bible out loud to themselves, they can do that. That's not an issue. And if somebody else hears it, then that's not an issue. That's not anything illegal. And again, it would just come back to ensuring that nothing is disruptive on campus, so you don't lead to people getting upset and all of that sort of thing. You need people focused on educating kids during the school day.
And if I can add to that, I think a teacher acting in official capacity is a key word, and they can't coerce students to engage in a religious text with them.
Right.
And so those are the key elements there. But if they're on their downtime, their independent time, they are welcome to do so, as long as they're not, again, coercing kids or basically operating in their official capacity.
Yeah.
I just want to add a comment for what Ms. Villarreal had said about the cult situation. I know my son was subjected to a period of several days where he was taught about other gods. And so those things already exist in our schools. So I don't think we worry so much about that as ensuring that we're standing for the right things.
Ms. Chidgey.
So I question the responsibility this puts on the school. There would be it sounds like we'll separate kids based on, I have a permission slip, I don't. So, and then they're given a space. I heard you say, I think, that there will be supervision. A teacher would be assigned to do this, or is that a teacher that is choosing to pray, so that teacher is praying out loud in their faith while I just worry about the supervision and what that puts on the teacher and her faith versus the faith that's within the kids she's supervising. I don't know how that works.
Right, and that's where it comes back to the implementation piece, having to figure that out, because if you were to have students gathering in a spot on campus, whether it's a classroom or an auditorium or whatever space is dedicated, you'd want the students to be supervised by someone. And the way the bill is written, if they're engaging in either prayer or the reading of religious texts, then every person within earshot of that would need to have a written consent form that they are consenting to participate in that process. And as far as implementing how you work supervision, if there's not an employee, we'd have to figure out how best to do that, because you don't want students unsupervised at some point during the school day at a space on campus.
The person providing supervision can be praying as well.
Sure.
I'm
yeah.
assuming.
Sure. As long as they've consented, that they can participate in that process.
And when I think about and maybe this is for you, Mr. Jarrett, when I think about the implementation, it's almost, it has to be, it doesn't say this, but I just can't find a time in this, all of these minutes where we would do this. So perhaps before school, after school, I don't know, would that get into our bus schedule? I'm concerned about the implementation, really.
Sure. Considering that, the AM will even be challenging just because buses come in at different times. And so it would essentially have to be at the end of a day where some kiddos are waiting for the bus while students are able to participate in this. That would be really, right now, as I see it off the top of my head, that we can do.
Any other questions, comments, Ms. Villarreal?
I just have one more. I'm concerned because could this be perceived as stepping between a parent and child relationship? Because if that's something, religion in itself is a very personal thing. And parents, will take their children to go worship. Could we actually be perceived as stepping on that relationship? I don't want to get between a parent and a child. And it just, I would love to see, people praying. I would love that, absolutely. But I don't want to meddle in somebody's relationship that they have with, who they, call to a higher power. And that's kind of a concern and where that puts us.
As I sort of think about what you're asking in your question, I think what your concern would be because obviously anybody that were to participate, if the board were to decide to implement this, anybody that would be participating, any student would have to have that written consent from a parent before they could participate at all. But I think where you're going, and certainly correct me if I'm wrong, but where you're going is if you have a situation where you might have students of different denominations, for example, that are given a space and want to engage in prayer, but it's just so you're kind of working out we want to use a prayer from this religious text versus another one saying, no, we want to pray from this other religious text or from the Bible. Whichever, right? I think that's kind of where you're going is it becomes a potential issue when you have folks of different denominations, students of different denominations that want the opportunity to engage in this. But then, a parent might say, well, I consent to my child participating in prayer with whatever particular denomination I subscribe to and I'm instructing my children to, but I don't want them to hear prayer or religious texts that are not ours. So that's, I think, where you're kind of going, where and that's where it comes back to an implementation piece, because
sounds like a nightmare.
The bill didn't account for that.
You would have all these different denominations that you would have to account for.
It's possible.
And if you, it just sounds like a logistical nightmare. Because
if we provide space for one, we have to provide space
exactly.
for all. And whether you agree with it or not, it's that is the equal opportunity that we have to provide
exactly
under this Senate bill. And granted, again, as Mr. Lopez said, we allow that on sort of a within the policies and the regulations we have now for students and staff to express that religiously. So before you go, I think Ms. Shelton had her light on.
So, Mr. Byer, at this point, we can make a motion to either have a resolution or not have a resolution, correct?
That is correct. That is correct.
You have a comment?
I have one more question, and I'll stop.
And then we can call the question?
Yes.
Okay.
As far as establishing set times, do we still have the opportunity for these students to have clubs? And so,
yes, ma'am. We currently, we have fellow Christian athletes right now, and so students can form clubs with religious support.
Okay.
Ms. Villarreal, did you have one more question?
So I'm just going to make a statement. So it sounds like we're actually doing this. So I don't think we need to, make it harder is right.
Right. I think the policy would just restrict us more.
I agree with you.
So
So we have Young Life, we have FCA, we have a moment of silence. You go in the cafeteria, there are students with their Bibles out reading.
Yep.
Kids finish their work. There's an occasional, I'm not going to say it's a lot, but there are students that feel the free, I mean, they're allowed to do that right now.
Yep.
And I will tell you, when I left the campus, I really missed that moment of silence. I mean, it's a treasured time. It was for me.
I will entertain any motions at this time.
I'm not sure the way to frame it. I'll lean to you. I'd like to make a motion that we're opposing or we're...
Well, your choices would be that either you make a motion to adopt the resolution or not adopt the resolution.
I'd like to make a motion that we not adopt the resolution related to SB 11.
I have a motion from Ms. Shelton, second from Ms. Landry. All right. Mrs. Thompson?
I'm sorry, what was the motion again?
It's a good question.
I move that we not adopt a resolution related to Senate Bill 11.
Okay, aye.
Thank you. Ms. Chichi?
So if you say aye, you're agreeing not to do it.
That is correct.
Okay. Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Byer, aye. Ms. Villarreal?
Aye.
Mrs. Cox?
Aye.
Mrs. Landry?
Aye.
Ms. Shelton?
Yes, aye.
All right, thank you all very much. Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Motion
Thank you all.
passes 7-0. Item B, possible action regarding order of election for May 2nd, 2026, general election for SMD 2, SMD 3, and SMD 7. Mr. Bywaters.
Good evening. Mr. Byer, Board of Trustees, executive staff, guests, thank you all very much for allowing me to speak this evening. I have something pretty quick for you. Believe it or not, it is that time of year again. The election cycle is coming up. Single-member districts 2, 3, or I guess the terms for single-member districts 2, 3, and 7 are expiring this upcoming May. In order to fill them, we have to, or the Board of Trustees of a political subdivision would have to call an election. So, in accordance with Section 11.0581 of the Education Code, the election will be held as a joint election with Bexar County and other political subdivisions in our area. According to Section 3.005 of the Texas Election Code, the Board of Trustees has until February 13th of 2026, which is this Friday, to call said election. To recap previous actions the district has taken in this process, NEISD posted the legally required notice of deadline to file a ballot application on December 9th of 2025. The document was posted in English and in Spanish, both on our website and out on the bulletin board right outside. The application window to file for a place on the ballot for a place on the Board of Trustees opened January 14th. That deadline is Friday, February 13th at 5 p.m. I cannot take an application at 5:01 p.m., so that is when those need to be either in person, by mail, fax, email, but that is the deadline. It is recommended that the NEISD Board of Trustees adopt this motion or approve the action in order to order a May 2nd general election, and I'm happy to answer any questions y'all might have.
Thank you, Mr. Bywaters. Do
Yes,
we have
sir.
any questions for Mr. Bywaters? Okay. Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the order of election for the May 2nd, 2026 general election?
So moved.
Ooh. We'll go, thank you, Ms. Shelton, second. Thank you, Ms. Cox. Sorry. Ms. Thompson?
Aye.
Ms. Chichi?
Aye.
Mr. Byer, aye. Ms. Villarreal?
Aye.
Mrs. Cox?
Aye.
Mrs. Landry?
Aye.
And Ms. Shelton?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
you.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 12, new business for possible board action. A, consent. 1, instruction and campus administration. A, school health advisory council member appointments. B, board resolution wage payments during school closures. C, 2026-2027 Academy of Creative Education and Castle Hill calendars. 2, business services. A, authorized representatives, TexPool and TexPool Prime. 3 minutes from January 7th, 2026, January 12th, 2026, and January 26th, 2026 for end of consent. Do I have any members wishing to pull an item for discussion?
I'd like to.
Ms. Cox, which one?
The SHAC consent item.
So consent item 1A, SHAC member appointments. Any others? All right, seeing none, do I have a motion to approve consent as presented except for item 1A?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Chigi. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Villarreal. Mrs. Thompson?
Aye.
Ms. Chigi?
Aye.
Mr. Byer? Aye. Mrs. Villarreal?
Aye.
Mrs. Cox?
Aye.
Mrs. Landry?
Aye.
Ms. Shelton?
Aye.
All right, motion passes 7-0. All right, consent item 1A, School Health Advisory Council member appointments. Mrs. Cox.
Thank you, Mr. Byer. As the SHAC liaison, I just wanted to, just to see if it's helpful to share some of the attendance numbers we've had starting in October. So out of the 28 in October, we had 16. In November, we had 15. In January, we had 17, which isn't horrible, but some of those committees might have 1 or 2 people on them. So I think just as a liaison, I might recommend, if that's okay, an email reminder out to all your people. And I've got the list of dates, if that would be helpful. Just maybe an email saying thank you very much for participating in SHAC, and here's a reminder of the upcoming dates. I don't know if that would be helpful or not. I could send those dates in an email.
Yeah, if you want to send that to Ms. Turner, and then
Okay.
she can distribute that to everybody, and
Perfect.
that'd be helpful.
Okay.
And with this item, Mrs. Landry and I both had an individual that we've now appointed, so we've filled out some spots that were
That's great.
that
Thank
were
you.
vacant. So thank you for that reminder. Would you like to, Ms. Chigi?
So I do think, we talked about this last year, if we were going to have less people, we needed to call and remind our folks, and I did do that recently. And so I think I'm reaching out to you, Mrs. Cox, maybe ask throughout the meeting, has everybody signed? Because one of the people I called was in fact in the meeting, but she came in a couple of minutes late and didn't sign in. So just to reflect it accurately.
Sure, and I think that was discussed, maybe just to have the chairperson, just as a reminder before we get started, once they've eaten, finished lunch or whatever, just to make that reminder put out for everybody. Sure.
Ms. Cox, would you like to make a?
Ooh.
Oh, Ms. Shelton, sorry.
So I got word right before the meeting that one of my parents, their circumstances have changed.
Okay.
So I'm assuming we're going to vote her on today, but she's not going to be able to continue just because her circumstances have changed.
Okay.
So we need to put her name.
Has she already been on the
She,
SHAC?
yes, she has been on and attended previously.
So her name is not up for consideration today?
Okay.
Yeah. We had 2 new members that, and so just while we're on the subject, if you do get another person, just provide that information to Mrs. Turner, and then we'll get it on an agenda for official approval. So Ms. Cox should make a motion for, I guess, approval of the.
I make a motion to approve new or rename volunteers to serve on the School Health Advisory Council.
All right.
All
Thank
right.
you very much. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. Back to you, Mrs. Thompson.
Aye.
Mrs. Chigi?
Aye.
Mr. Byer? Aye. Mrs. Villarreal?
Aye.
Mrs. Cox?
Aye.
Mrs. Landry?
Aye.
And Ms. Shelton?
Aye.
All right, thank you all. Motion passes 7-0. Item 13, reports. A, interim financial and management reports. B, awarded bid report. C, federal grants report. D, open records request report. Does anybody have an item they'd like to discuss with any of those? Okay. Item 14, discussion and possible action regarding board members' requests for items to be placed on a future agenda and/or requests for reports from the administration. Do any trustees have anything they'd like to add to a future agenda or a report? Ms. Shelton. And real quick before that, Ms. Villarreal, do you have one, or is your mic on? I just wanted to make sure. If you have something, I will come to you next. I didn't want to skip over you. So, Ms. Shelton.
For a future agenda item, I would like to discuss our cell phone policy for the next school year.
All right. So with that, you have to, I guess that's technically a motion. So we need a second.
I'll second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to add a discussion about the cell phone policy in a future agenda item. Down the line, any other questions or conversation about that? Okay. Mrs. Thompson?
Aye.
Ms. Chigi?
Aye.
Mr. Byer, nay. Ms. Villarreal?
Aye.
Ms. Cox?
Aye.
Ms. Landry?
Aye.
Ms. Shelton?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-1. Any other items or requests for administration? All right, seeing none, item 15, adjournment, and the time is 7:52.